Howdy there, everybody. Welcome back and happy Skews Day to you. It is January 18th, 2022. I'm Trey Crowder, and that is Mark Agee. What's up, Mark?
What's up, Trey? Did you see today's Matt Gaetz update? Um,
I did not, but I'm
he's
hopeful.
his the feds have given an ex girlfriend of his an immunity deal, which is fun because you don't give something for nothing, right?
Right.
And just hope this case doesn't drag on long enough that it's too old for him to date. Uh, the I think you and I both spent the weekend watching football and seeing that Matt Damon Crypto.com commercial over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Um,
It
if you're
ends
not
with him looking at Mars. Like,
Yeah, talking about how fortune favors the bold throughout history or whatever, and like
yeah,
so be brave enough to invest in crypto.
yeah.
If you not, anyway, fast forward. Crypto.com had to suspend all withdrawals yesterday because someone hacked it and stole $15 million in Ethereum, and we're laundering it through another exchange. So our buddy Drew pointed out he thinks Matt Damon is just wearing joggers in that commercial, and joggers is the effort that cryptocurrencies deserve. So glad for him to get the cash grab. And Crypto.com, by the way, is the same company that paid $700 million to rename the Staples Center here
I,
in Los Angeles.
I was
Yeah,
just about to ask you because I thought it was, and I was about to bring that up. Yeah. Well,
yeah,
can't believe they're a target for like, dark web fuckery or whatever is going on
yeah.
there.
Do you,
Hackers coming after
yeah,
crypto.
we're trying to run a scam, and you're scamming our scam. You
Yeah, it's
can't
not
do your
fair.
scam to our scam. That's cheating.
Oh man. All righty. Well, with us as always is producer Matt. This is Weekly Skews. I want to remind you, if you're vaccinated, want to see me live, you can go to wellreadcomedy.com for tickets and information. We'll be in Omaha coming up, then Indy and Appleton, Wisconsin, and a bunch of other places after that. It's going to be fun. Hope to see y'all out there. Now, as for the show tonight, we talk about the state of voting rights legislation and those who oppose it and their apparent love for Martin Luther King. If you think that seems incongruent, then you, unlike many in GOP leadership, have a functioning brain. Speaking of having brains that don't work, we got some more Capitol rioter updates for you. They just wanted their stuff back. They're painting themselves red. It's getting wild. Before we get to all that, we, of course, must begin with the Daily Dumbass. Matt, graphic, please. Tonight's DD, anyone who thought a supreme alpha male like Dan Crenshaw would ever back down from a threat, even and especially if said threat is posed by a 10-year-old girl. That's right. Play the clip, Matt.
To give context to anyone who hasn't heard, Crenshaw said, quote, "The most important thing here is that we have important hero archetypes that we look up to. Jesus is a hero archetype, Superman is a hero archetype. Real characters too. I could name 1,000. Rosa Parks, Ronald Reagan," end quote. I can't wrap my head around this.
Well, I'll help you. Put a period after the word Jesus and don't question my faith.
Wow.
Okay, that's... There's...
You moron.
What?
Yeah, you don't talk to a kid like that. Yeah, boo.
Don't question my faith.
Oh, okay.
You guys can ask questions about all of these things and I will answer them. But don't question my faith.
I've been questioning your faith, and this is what you said.
That's... I mean, you can read the quote again. But nowhere in that quote am I saying Jesus is not real. That's a ridiculous statement. Of course he's the Son of God.
I don't think that went the way he thought it was going to go, But
Yeah.
what's he going to do? He can't backtrack. He's got to just double down because, he's not a punk, Mark. He's a strong man. You can't just backpedal when you're talking shit to a 10-year-old. You got to go in harder.
The thing is, here's the fun thing is like he's right. He's being too mean to a little girl, but she is acting in bad faith, taking his quote out of context from a guy who's speaking extemporaneously. But hey, he would not be that fair to other people though. So fuck him.
Yeah, and it's also at the end of that video. So like, I'm assuming these are people. At first, I couldn't tell exactly what the context was of the room he was in and what was happening because he gets booed for this. People are heckling him and shit when he's mean to this little girl, which is how like I feel like you would expect most adult humans to respond to something like that. But then at the end of it, almost as though they knew that people watching the video would have this question, they start a "Let's go Brandon" chant. just kind of out of nowhere at the end of it. And I don't know if that was them being like, fuck you for that, but we're still on board with everything else or what. But it's just, or they can't just go X number of minutes without having a "Let's Go Brandon" chant, and it was just time for another one. I don't know, but I thought it was kind of weird.
It's like if you sit in silence in Alabama for longer than 10 minutes, somebody's going to yell "Roll Tide." It's just going to happen.
Yes, 100%.
No, I think he's just doing some constituent event at a restaurant, maybe a fundraiser. But the idea that he thought, like, somebody is making this point. We love to have a lot of fun with these people tearing each other apart. Like, I think we compared them to hyenas last week. But you can't negotiate with a pack of hyenas, right? But like somebody made a point today, that like when your entire group identity is based upon hating out groups, once you've cast out all the out groups, all you have left is fringes within your own group, right? Mm-hmm. So Crenshaw's gotten a rep as a rhino among the Let's Go Brandon group because he did not follow through hard enough with trying to overturn the election, which is why he's been beefing with Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert and those fucking types.
Oh, okay.
So he's a rhino to them. He's a Navy SEAL lost and not committing war crimes is not hard. He's not hardcore enough for them. He's got to blow up a Jeep in his campaign ad and yell about the Green New Deal. So
yeah. Also, just an aside, this is a 10-year-old girl reportedly. I have a 10-year-old and also a 9-year-old, and they make good grades and stuff. And I cannot ever. They don't listen to podcasts with congressmen on it or ask questions like this. Their question would be about what would happen if a butt was also had a face for a butt, like if you could have two butts on the same person, if they farted, how that would work. Those are the types of like questions they would have, if any, at an event like this. So
well, Trey, maybe if they prayed as much as this little girl, their brains would get bigger.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, that could be what we're missing.
That or her parents gassed her up and gave her a talking point.
See, I can't help but want again. I mean, kids are different. I'm not judging them all based on just mine, but I got friends. We all got kids around the same age, and maybe we just all got just a bunch of pack of little dumbasses. That's what we're all working with, But again, mine do pretty good in school at least, and I just don't. I don't see any of them acting like this, and I wonder, it's like, is she being force-fed Dan Crenshaw sound bites or something at the dinner table? But whatever. That ain't none of my business.
My nephew's 14. If I put a gun to his head, he couldn't tell you who a singer congressman was.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Much less go ask them an aggressive question and get them in a gotcha about comparing Jesus to Superman as a fictional character.
Exactly. Producer Matt said maybe she's homeschooled. Yeah, that would I could see it. Okay, let's see here. Honorable mention, Daily Dumbasses. Let's get into them. First up, we got Tucker Carlson for stealing this guy's valor. This is a good one. This is a good one here. I like this one. So play the clip, Matt.
Who is this person? Why hasn't he been charged? That's a very simple ask.
He passes out weapons, sledgehammers, poles, mace. Some of those things come into contact with other protesters who have subsequently been charged with possessing dangerous weapons and or using dangerous weapons at the Capitol.
This segment on Tucker Carlson's Fox News show last month thrusted rally runner into national headlines.
I never planned on being in the national spotlight. Due to unforeseen circumstances and bogus claims by Joseph McBride, here I am.
Joseph McBride is representing several defendants accused of rioting at the U.S. Capitol a year ago. He accused rally runner of being an undercover cop, claiming that's why he hasn't been charged, like many others that day.
I was cleared of all wrongdoing in January 21 by the FBI and local law enforcement. I gave them a copy of my footage from my GoPro, which was submitted as evidence.
Rally runner says his footage proved to authorities he remained peaceful and didn't step foot inside the Capitol building. He says he doesn't regret anything about January 6, 2021.
I'm proud I was there to stand for America when the spineless Congress would not.
So that guy, the reporters calling him rally runner. He's a fixture at St. Louis Cardinals games. He apparently jogs around the stadium before every game in that full body red paint. And they call him Rally Runner because he legally changed his name to Rally Runner and will not tell people what his birth name is.
Refuses to even give up his birth name. You will address him as Rally Runner if you address him at all.
So At first, and if you can't, like, the reason we're laughing, if you're listening to the podcast version, is his face is painted red in his testimony video, where he's like, and the reason he sounds so stilted is he's reading that statement because another reporter made this clear. They reached out to him for comment. His lawyer told him he absolutely should not talk to the press. He really, really wanted to, so his lawyer drafted a statement that would not get his ass immediately locked up, even though he did ignore it and did profess his actual innocence, even though his lawyer told him, please do not talk about the case. So, yeah, he's going to own himself in the jail.
I wonder what his lawyer said about the face paint. Like, maybe he knows that's a non-starter. Maybe his lawyer's never met with him without the face paint on. You know, maybe the face paint never comes off. But I would imagine that would be part of the advice also. Like, don't speak about the case. And maybe also don't have the whole rally runner get up on. It's like, well, it goes really good with the Keep America Great hat, you know, like it fits his color scheme and the whole thing he's got going on. But something about that dude dressed up that way with that like fanatic face paint on, giving an official statement about his intentions and full whereabouts on the day of the Capitol insurrection is just kind of, it's just a perfect microcosm of that whole thing and the people who perpetrated it. But it's also very funny that this dude got singled out apparently as being secret Antifa FBI or whatever. Like, because that's the whole thing that pissed him off, right? This other lawyer, Joseph McBride, went on Tucker Carlson and they singled out this guy as being one of the, like, what's the word? Not provocateurs, but the
agent provocateurs, I think.
Agent provocateurs, and that they pointed out this guy, like, clearly this one is one of the secret masterminds of the whole thing.
they have I mean, their suspicions are not without 1% of merit, because it is weird that he has not been charged, because one, he was easily recognizable on the video at the Capitol because everyone in St. Louis knows him for always wearing red face paint. He was wearing red face paint at the Capitol. All right. Two, it makes him clearly identifiable on video, and also he was at the front of the lines beating on cops with the shield he pulled off one of them in a fight. I don't know what this is about handing out weapons. I have no idea if that's true, but it is weird. I don't know what's on his GoPro camera, but the publicly available footage that I watched earlier today shows him hitting a cop with a shield. So, maybe he did cut a deal. I don't know. His lawyer probably does, but he shouldn't be saying he's innocent. It's going to piss off a judge when it comes time to, figure out what his sentence is going to be or whether he's going to be let off with no charges. But here's a funny thing. The reason he saw that is because he's a huge Tucker Carlson fan. He routinely would tweet out and Facebook post links to Tucker segments about how Tucker's dead right about everything, because he, of course, he always is to those people. But it must have been really jarring to him when he sees this, the guy who speaks the truth straight from the word of God, mouth of God, says he's an undercover cop.
Right. It's like you were saying about like the infighting and them being hyenas and ripping each other apart and stuff like that. It's got to be wild to be one of these people that's this fanatical about this whole thing and then get sort of publicly hung out to dry, for being one of the things that you fear and despise the most, i.e. Antifa or whatever.
Yeah. He's also, this rally runner is a good example of this conspiracy theory got picked up by Louis Gohmert, and he went on TV and talked about how this guy was definitely an undercover Fed a couple weeks ago, which Louis Gohmert's a huge fucking dumbass. So
yeah, the biggest.
But they were right. He is funded by the feds, because before he went to January 6th, he posted that he was using his $600 $600 stimulus check to pay for his trip to D.C. So they are right about that, not the way they think. He also, somebody screen grabbed a bunch of his posts, and in order you can see him go like, I'm excited to be going for January 6th. I was at January 6th. Yes, we were aggressive, but we're standing up for truth. The Democrats are framing us. Wait, January 6th is the setup. And then he posted this was all undercover cops encouraging them and riling the mob up.
Right.
And now, complete the circle, now he is an undercover cop to his fellow allies and travelers in this movement. So, it's just, you love to see it.
Yeah, man. Shit is pretty wild. But let's talk about some other Capitol rioters, or next honorable mention. Any of those that forgot about the finders keepers doctrine. That's right. Apparently, many of the people who got into the U.S. Capitol later called the Nancy Pelosi's office asking whether there was a lost and found, because they had forgot their phone there or they left their purse or what have you. So, maybe some zip ties. Like, you got a snake flag in there, and they're like, you're going to be way more specific. We got like a whole pile of snake flags, but they're like, well,
Yeah.
just any one of those would work. I need to get those back. Yeah, I got a tactical vest that I left in the office. If I could just pick that up, that would be great.
Yeah.
And
if you're not going to stick your head in it, can I have my noose back?
right. And so let's. I want to see. Can we show the video of Tucker Carlson once again? His take on this, like what he took away from that happening. If you have it, Matt.
Noon, that on January 7th of last year, the day after, protesters called Nancy Pelosi's office line in the Capitol looking for items they may have left inside the building. Law enforcement took down their numbers and later arrested them. Is that the behavior of people who believe they were trying to overthrow the U.S. government? Obviously, it's not. These are Americans who came to their capital city with their friends to complain loudly about what politicians were doing. They assumed that was still allowed, but it's not allowed.
See, it's like, I feel like he's like dancing around saying what is actually happening here, I think, which is that like they so clearly thought that they were right and that it was fine to, but they did also want to overthrow the government, or at least overturn the result of that election. So it's just that they thought that would be okay, and they couldn't process the idea that that might not be okay. And that's why they'll just call up and ask where the lost and found is, because they left some shit there.
They're also just fucking stupid.
I mean, yeah, right. Yes. Of course.
Something like 50% of murders go unsolved. Most of the ones that solve are the ones where the cops show up and find the killer's name tag on the body or some shit. It's like literally mostly it's low-hanging fruit when crimes get solved. The person standing over the body or whatever. Like, criminals, by and large, a lot of them, the ones that get caught anyway, are fucking stupid. So, like, someone, I don't know if you guys remember this, but the first World Trade Center bombing, those guys got caught because they had to get back the $400 deposit on the truck they exploded. All right.
Well, dude, you got to get that deposit back, Mark. Everybody knows, like, it's real hard to get a deposit back, but you got to try. I mean, just on principle.
Yeah.
You can't just let that go.
And these guys were smart enough to build the bomb and successfully set it off without getting the attention of the FBI. So, like, they're smarter than these people who, and if you've ever lost your phone, Trey, you really need your phone back when you lose it.
You do.
They got good footage of the riot on there. They need to post to their socials.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I need to get that back so they can post it on Facebook. But yeah, you're talking about being low-hanging fruit, many arrests. That's just, there's never been lower hanging fruit. Like, imagine being one of the FBI guys or whatever that was assigned to this and taking these phone calls, because it's like, they call and they're wanting to get their purse back or whatever, and so they just tell them, yeah, no problem, we can totally do that. So just let me get your name, your address, your social, and we'll box that up. We'll send it right out to you.
Trey's not even joking, because that's how the story goes. It's like he says they called up, asked for this stuff, and people are like, yes, hold please, and they put him on then they transferred him to the cops, and the cops just said, yeah. Here's the quote. They said, yeah, just give me your name, your address, your social. We'll tie up those loose ends.
Yeah. And they're like, that is, what? The FBI is so helpful. Like, they get a bad rap sometimes, but that's top-notch customer service right there. I tell you what. Yeah, they're going to have it here by tomorrow, they said. Next thing you know, their fucking doors getting broken down.
I know that people keep saying that one of the reasons they can't prosecute all these people is because the FBI agents already have their regular caseload on top of this, and the justice system's overwhelmed and all this shit. But, like, when you spend your life trying to solve whodunits, like what Al Qaeda's up to, like, get assigned this batch of cases must be like, when you're playing Super Mario and you get to find a secret door to just a pure coin world, just all coins.
I know. It's got to be, dude. They have to be laughing their asses off in the break room or whatever over this shit too, comparing these notes and stuff. I mean, yeah, but it was a wild time around there. Let's see what we got next for honorable mention. Of course, very few crazy people who did end up at Trump's rally for giving the rest of them a bad name. For example, this guy we're going to see in this clip, I'm sure he is in no way indicative of the general sort of mind state of those who attended. But let's take a look at him anyway, Matt.
We just need one. We need one the election.
Yeah. Well,
And Newsom's a clone. Okay, they just took him out.
He's a puppet for the left.
He's a different level. You're right. But the real Governor Newsom has had his military tribunal and Gitmo, and he's been executed. Okay.
There you go. Thank you for your time. Yes, sir.
There you go. I don't know what else you're supposed to say in that reporter's shoes and that, but like I liked what he went with. Well, there you have it. All right.
Yeah.
Back to you, Dan.
Yeah, so that was Trump's big rally in Arizona. We'll get to a Trump clip in a second, but they like the main thing that was the main. I mean, they broadcast it live on C-SPAN, which fuck C-SPAN. I don't know what they're doing, but like the main coverage from it, there was that guy. He has like a YouTube channel called Real Patriot News or some shit. I don't fucking know, but there's a bunch of QAnon people there. Like that, the person's been executed. They've been replaced by a clone. That's all QAnon shit, right? But like the funny part was he kept asking a CNN reporter who was there kept asking people what they think about Kristen Sinema, and those fuckers love some Kristen Sinema. So there is a group of people she does hit for. But yeah, so Trump did his normal. The media is full of shit. The election was stolen. I got robbed. All that's par for the course now. We know what it sounds like. But he started talking about supply chain. Well, first of all, we don't have this clip, but he called it. He kept calling it supply change, like he didn't even understand the term.
Yeah,
about problems with the supply change. And here's a big complaint about the supply change, which really made me laugh.
Buy Christmas gifts. You say to your loved one, darling, I'm sorry, I love you very much, but I just can't. There's no merchandise in Tiffany. I wanted to buy the most beautiful ring, but they don't have any rings anymore. Nobody has anything. We never even heard the term supply change. You know, if you talk supply chain is not something that we
never even
talked
heard the
about,
term.
and that's what happened.
I haven't heard the term. He's not wrong.
Me neither.
Yeah. So the man of the people, I love when he tries to be relatable.
Right.
It's like, you know, when you go to Tiffany's, you try to buy a $200,000 ring.
Get the diamond you want. It's like they're short. Why is nobody reporting on this? We got a shortage of diamonds in this country.
Yeah,
it's Joe Biden's fault. You know how hard it is to get diamonds lately.
Yeah.
Just for the record, and I almost don't even want to say this. It was a very modest thing. I bought my wife a gift from there for Christmas. A very modest selection, but it was also a bit because I fucked up like the last 3 Christmas gifts in a row. Matter of fact, real quick because it is funny. I'll tell the story. I can't remember if I told it last year, but she last year I had just ordered her gift for Christmas. And the next day, she was sitting on her phone laughing her ass off. And I was like, what is it? And she goes, you got to see this. You got to see this. This is so great. And she shows me this Saturday Night Live sketch that had just aired that week on Saturday Night Live. And it was where Kristen Wiig is the mother of this like suburban family. And the husband and the kids are all singing about the awesome shit they got. I got a new computer. I got all this. And then it cuts to her and she's like, and I got a robe. And then it's back to them, and they're all happy, singing about the great shit they're getting. And then back to her, and I got a robe. And anyway, I had just ordered her a really nice robe. I mean, it was like, I thought it was a great robe. It was a wearable blanket, is what it was. But anyway, I was like, oh fuck, you know. But I mean, she laughed about it later. But I've been doing bad lately on presents, so I was like, well, I can't fuck this up. Anyway, I'm saying all that just to say that also isn't even true. What he just said, at least in my experience. Like, there was no indication whatsoever that Tiffany was suffering during this trying economic time we're going through right now. Tiffany seems to have been doing just fine.
I kind of feel like COVID supply chain problems wouldn't affect, you know, the blood diamond trade, but what do I know?
Right. Yeah.
Like maybe the problem, Trey, is that he's broke and you got Trey Crowder money. Maybe that's
yeah, that's surely what it is. If anybody's immune to the stresses of this pandemic, it's, you know, traveling comedians. All right, let's. Do you want to talk about this road rage guy?
I do, just because he's emblematic of everything that's happened in this country in a way that's really comically fucking ridiculous. And he can't sue us because he's dead now. So let's make fun of him.
Spoilers.
So This guy, I'm going to fuck up playing his last name. I think it's Kuzwanski, if I had to say it.
That's part of why I asked you to do it, because I saw that last name and I was like, oh shit.
So this guy named John Kuzwanski, who was a Republican, he was chief of staff for a state senator. Then when she retired, slid into a cushy job working for the state pension board. That's not the operational name for it, but that's what he does, is he manages state pensions. Anyway, he fucked around with the driver of a Prius and found out last week. What he did was he swerved. He was playing on his phone and swerved into another lane and hit this Prius. And when they pulled into a parking lot of, I think, a Circle K to haggle this out, the Prius driver gave him shit. So what he did is what you always do when you start in an accident and someone's mad at you for it. He got back in his car and started ramming this guy's Prius with his BMW. And that not being enough, he got his gun out and he shot out his window at the driver of the Prius, who, I guess unexpectedly to him, had a gun on him as well and shot back and fucking killed him. Now, here's the kicker to this. The guy had previously been arrested for a road rage incident where he pulled a gun on someone else at this exact same fucking stoplight.
So, well, I think this guy should have, like, on the one hand, you could kind of see in his head, he's like, well, a guy driving a Prius isn't going to have a gun. But on the other hand, this is a Prius in Tallahassee, Florida. So I feel like you have to assume everybody's got a gun on you. You know what I mean? I mean, there's meth, there's gators. You need to be armed to defend yourself, even if you drive a Prius. But also just, I don't know, because I know this guy's wife came out afterwards and was talking about how it was like a misunderstanding, that he got pulled into this incident and it's so tragic and all this stuff, you know, but I don't know how you, like, what did he think he was going to happen? That he was just going, that he would be the one to shoot better and kill this guy and then just claim self-defense? Actually, you know what? I mean, I guess that could have very easily happened given the way things go in this country. So yeah, maybe that is what he was thinking. It's like, I'll just shoot him and get away with it, because that's how we roll here in Florida.
I mean, Trump's actual hardcore base are people exactly like this. These are people who consider themselves like fiefdoms and petty tyrants over their small territories, right? You're talking about your small business owners. You're like, you guys own Sea-Doo dealerships. You're you're people have McMansions and shit. This guy really does think he's like a feudal lord, and somebody who fuck with him, like, who are you to fuck with me, is sort of how he deals with it. Sorry, my phone's working. And
did you mention his job?
Yeah, he worked for the state. He worked for the state government. He, like, the agency that oversees investing pension money.
Right. So
he just flipped out because someone else was disrespecting him. That's It's like we talked before about, like, so many. We've had like 10 state Republican officials get arrested for yard-based disputes with their neighbors, where they begin to fight their neighbors. The most famous of which is Rand Paul, who got the shit beat out of his by neighbor for, like, I think they were fighting over overhanging tree branches. Somebody cut down the other one's tree branches. It's like, Jesus Christ, man! I live in an apartment. My neighbors are loud as shit. It's just something you have to deal with as other people existing. This guy doesn't like that.
Right.
Anyway, his wife, his wife says he's the real victim and he was set up and assassinated, which goes to show you how important these people think they are. It's sort of like part of the root of the problem that got him killed. Anyway, the last little hit on this is his last tweet was him excited about winning a raffle for a handgun, maybe the one that got him killed.
Yeah.
So
an alien, not a literal, but it was like an alien arms raffle or something like that. I don't know if that was a brand of gun. It was something like suitably ridiculous. He was pumped about winning some gun that had the word alien in the title of it. I can't remember, but it was some wild shit. All right, one more honorable mention for you, because I like this one. Then we'll talk about voting and stuff. Let's see. Microscopes for being total bullshit. Clearly, that's what we're gonna put. Let's hear this. Wisconsin, I think, state GOP rep talking about the inherent futility of trying to battle COVID-19. Matt, play.
So you ask, what are we going to do to stop the spread of the pandemic? And, you know, if you can't see the virus, if you can't see anything, how are you going to do it? How can you stop it? How? You physically cannot see the virus. You don't know if it's in this room or it's outside or if it even exists right now in here. You have no clue. How are you going to stop that?
It's a good question, Mark. How do you whoop that which ass you cannot see? You know what I mean? Like, if you can't see something's ass, how are you going to whoop it? He poses a good question.
If anybody knows about whipping ass, it's a state senator that has a ponytail. So I'll take his word for it. That dude's definitely taking some karate classes.
Absolutely. He got a gi. He got a whole assortment of samurai swords. He's he got his own dojo in the basement probably.
I remember when Trump got elected, thinking, like, having the thought that I thought it was joking at the time that we're going to have to redo the Enlightenment. And here we are 5 years later, still relitigating the germ theory of disease, which I thought Louis Pasteur solved in like the 1850s.
Right.
So, yeah, can't see it, can't stop it. Everything in the world exists just to be perceived by humans. Why would God make the earth for people and then make stuff people can't see or hear, Trey?
Don't make no sense. He wouldn't do
That's
that.
That's why dog whistles aren't real. That's how I fucking know, right?
Yeah. Can you see like cancer and stuff? I guess tumors and whatnot, skin cancer. You could see.
Mm-hmm.
So you can whoop its ass. But how do you whoop lung cancer's ass? I guess you just can't.
Yeah, I mean
it's
that's why
it's a pickle. It's a conundrum.
Yeah.
You know.
If ninjas ever invade, we'd have to surrender because you can't fucking see them, right? They just like disappear in a cloud of smoke and they take over the U.S. government, right?
Now, see, I think this guy be ready for ninjas. He's been training. He's been training his whole life, waiting on the day the ninjas show up.
While you studied microbiology, he studied the blade.
He studied the blade. That's right. He definitely has a study the blade vibe to him. It's literally just a ponytail, but it's a good indicator. Okay.
Yeah.
Guys who love ponytails, they study the blade. Everybody knows it. Okay. Well, let's get into it. So we know there's an ongoing kerfuffle at Congress with the John Lewis Voting Rights Act that Joe Biden has, publicly declared that it needs to be a priority. We got to get this done. Schumer said, yeah, we're, working on it, whatever, but there's no real progress happening because it can be filibustered unless we do something about the filibuster, and Manchin and Sinema don't want to do that. So they're standing in the way. Every Republican standing in the way. None of them want to do that. But yesterday was Martin Luther King Day, and that didn't stop any of them who are standing in the way of the Voting Rights Act getting passed. Didn't stop any of them from gushing about
there's I just want it is terrible to me that we honor a very important American with a day off from work that everyone uses to be extremely fucking annoying and off base.
Right.
It's like I'm not just talking about the FBI every year tweeting the remembrance of Martin Luther King, a guy who they actively tried to get to kill himself,
right,
to harass into suicide. It's like there was a private prison yesterday that tweeted out an MLK quote. Wells Fargo Bank. We don't need to go into it, but Martin Luther King was not an agent of communists like people said he was in the 60s, but he was absolutely a fucking socialist.
Yeah. and he definitely wouldn't have fucked with private prisons. I mean, we incarcerate black people to much higher rates. One of the biggest, issues with racial relations in this country and its recent history. So I don't think Martin Luther King would be pro the private prison industry. And the audacity of these people, it's just a thing you're supposed to do, I guess. Do you know what I mean? It's like you just have to do it no matter who you are or what you stand for. So they just do it despite how baldly hypocritical it is.
And not a lot of people know this, but the most famous of his letters from Birmingham jail was just the one saying 5 stars. I love it here. The fucking the balls in the FBI. If Martin Luther King had an arch enemy, it was they were the Wile E. Coyote to his Roadrunner. Right? It's not like the Tom to his Jerry. There was no there's no other way to splice it. And I know they're not the same agents, and it's not the same. Hopefully, after the church committee hearings and stuff, they got more sane and J. Edgar Hoover rot in hell. But what the fuck are we doing here? But everybody loves to get their takes off, and I just think this is evidence of either they're way stupider than they have to be to be in Congress or say drive a car, or cook their own dinner. Or they're just operating in such bad faith that there's no point in even having a debate over stuff like voting rights with them. Because this one's just funny, but this is a congressman named Mike Wartz, I think, from Florida. He represents Ron DeSantis's old district outside of Jacksonville and covering Daytona Beach. And he was in the Army, which is what is the context for this. But let's hear this take on MLK, Matt.
Here at the Martin Luther King Memorial, celebrating Dr. King, you know, I've often said that he would have made the best of Green Berets. Our motto in the Green Beret community is De Oppresso Liber, to free the oppressed, where we've embedded with and helped oppressed societies all over the world. Well, that's exactly what Dr. King did.
Okay.
Except that he did it.
Right, exactly. Except for a couple differences in approach. But, let's not split hairs.
Yeah, I'm not even remotely going to argue with his take. I'm just going to say that absolutely was not on Martin Luther King's take. He gave a lot of speeches about American imperialism and military interventions. Yeah. He was extremely opposed to the Vietnam War. He talked a lot about how you can't stop oppression in America until you stop oppression overseas and stop meddling in other countries' affairs and doing military adventurism. This isn't like obscure stuff. This is the crux of his whole belief system.
Also, he wasn't really a shoot first, ask questions later type of guy either. Do you know what I mean? Like, he wasn't known for being, for taking the guns blazing approach. And I mean that literally with violence, that wasn't generally how he approached the oppression.
Someone else is a bigger expert in some of. I think a part of that, and one other thing I want to talk about is how we turn him into like a grandfatherly cartoon figure. He was more militant and more radical than people want to remember him as. He wasn't some cuddly old teddy bear. It wasn't purely nonviolence always. It was nonviolence for now, right? If you don't stop fucking up. But also he made the quote, "The riot is the language of the unheard." It's not like. He was making the point that if you fuck around, you're gonna find out, right? It's not justifying violence, but this is what if you're violent enough to people for a long enough time, they're gonna want some get back. It's not a hard dynamic to understand. But the one quote they do know, they're not familiar with any of his other speeches or talks or books or writings, but they do know that the one about the judging people about the content of the character, not the color of their skin, because they say that
they love it.
And here's Virginia's new governor, Glenn Youngkin, getting there, taking a long walk.
Whose whole entire thing and his entire thing in his campaign was about the evils of critical race theory and teaching children that we had slaves and that was bad. Basically, he wasn't down with all that. That was his entire thing in his campaign. Anyway.
School system. We're not going to teach our children to view everything through a lens of race. Yes, we will teach all history, the good and the bad, because we can't know where we're going unless we know where we have come from. But to actually teach our children that one group is advantaged and another is disadvantaged simply because of the color of their skin cuts across everything we know to be true. And the immortal words of Dr. Martin Luther King ring in our ears that we must judge one another by the content of our character and not the color of our skin. But this is what will be the founding principle of our executive order and what we're going to do in Virginia schools.
All right. Yeah, we all know Martin Luther King would have been opposed to talking about structural racism.
Right.
We're not going to talk about race. MLK hated talking about race.
I know, never. He famously avoided the subject of race. Martin Luther King did.
No,
but I just don't like the whole. He says we're going to talk about all of our history, both the good and the bad, but not any kind of systemic racism, no, or whatever. Teaching them that is real because it is false, but it is. How is it possible to teach the bad parts of history in a way that won't offend their precious white children's sensibilities or whatever? I mean, how can you possibly do that?
I guess you just remove all the context to the point where you think that like civil rights protesters were doing sit-ins in restaurants because the restaurants wouldn't order two tacos on Tuesday coupons or some shit, right. Or that MLK was getting his head cracked on the Edmund Pettus Bridge because they were going to put a toll booth up. I don't fucking know how you it's just dumb, and like no one's asking a 10-year-old to feel guilty over what his great grandpa did.
Right.
The idea that the kids feel that way or anybody's trying to make kids feel that way is fucking stupid. I don't know where it's also defensive over nothing. But then again, the point is these people don't mean anything to what they're saying. Glenn Youngkin made $400 million working for a hedge fund. He went to like Princeton or some shit. He's not fucking stupid. It's just you can't talk to these people. It's like arguing with a dog that's trying to kill you.
Yes. Yeah. And like you said, and that makes it so it does seem almost pointless to try to have like actual discourse with them on any of this stuff, because like you said, it just all it begins in a place of bad faith. So like, what are you supposed to attempt to say or to, talk to them about? There's nothing you can say to people who behave that way. But the Voting Rights Act is it's getting talked about a lot right now because of trying to get it passed, but also the context and how important it is. And it's important because it would, in addition to other things, it would help to prevent things like Texas's SB1, right? Laws like that, these restrictive voting rights laws, they're voter suppression laws that are being passed in a lot of red states, which do matter and are already starting to matter, correct?
Yeah.
In Texas specifically.
Yeah, there's a noise story this week from Houston. The context being that Houston's one of the most populous counties in the country. It's heavily, like most cities anywhere, is heavily far more progressive than the surrounding exurbs or the rural areas, and it's also the most diverse city in the country. And probably not coincidentally, they got rid of all their drop boxes. Every county gets one, including Harris, which is one of the biggest counties in the country. And people are applying for mail-in ballots. And they're now rejecting, under new state law, 16% of mail-in ballot applications. Now, that's a lot, considering in 2020 it was 2.5%. And one of the reasons they're doing this is they made the process to fill out so complicated. Like if you fill out one part of the application with your driver's license number and another part with your social security number, it'll get kicked back to you. Now, they're trying to rectify this by begging voters to please put their phone number and stuff. So if you have something wrong with your application, they can call you and try to help you work it out. But having an 8-fold increase in rejections is the point of the bill. And maybe voters have figured out, and maybe the result won't be impacted as much by it because people are determined to not get fucked with, hopefully. But it's still...
what is the rationale? Like, I know what they say is like, no, this is all to prevent voter fraud, right? Which, of course, I know is bullshit. But I'm saying, like, what is even the ostensible rationale of making the process infinitely more bureaucratic and also removing drop boxes for voting? Like, how are those things supposed to prevent fraud? They make it harder to just do it in the first place, which means if you're trying to fake do it, then it's doubly hard. But the drop boxes, I don't get. That's more places you can cheat at, and we need less of those. Like, is this how they rationalize it? Or am I just wasting my time?
The Dropbox thing is stupid. Trump just invented in his head that for some reason drop boxes were less safe than just regular old mailboxes. So you can still mail ballot, but you can't drive it and drop it in a specific box, right? There's no there. Trump just invented that thought in his head, and now everybody wants to change the rules because everyone's just decided to agree with him, even though it's fucking stupid. Right? There's nothing. There's no deeper level. But in general, conservatives just think it's better when fewer people vote. They're just like,
yeah.
And there's not even really any evidence that it necessarily helps Republicans, but they think it helps them. So they're trying to rig the system anyway. Just like there's not much evidence. Like someone's trying to make this point that maybe Democrats are freaking out a little too much because the idea that democracy will collapse because you can't give people water within 200 yards of a polling place is like it. I don't think that's going to have that much effect. People will know to bring their own water. But, like, what the fuck are you trying to do? The evil's in the intent. It's like, just let people vote.
Well,
I mean, it's
It's not just I mean, I know that's the general consensus is when more people vote, it's bad for Republicans. And they know that, and that's what you're going. But it's also a lot of these things like they implicitly target minorities and things like that. Like they have laws about like whatever, you can't use a hyphen or you can't misplace a hyphen or things like that when you put your name on it, and or if there's any kind of typos, then they can be rejected. And these are things that disproportionately affect minorities because they have their names aren't John Smith. You know what I mean? Or, I mean, a lot of them are, but you know what I mean. They're more likely to have these types of elements in their names in the first place. which
Yeah.
is why it affects them more. And then the polling locations get shut down in neighborhoods that are, minority populated neighborhoods and things like that. So it's all pretty transparent, really, but that's never stopped them before.
No one knows what actual impact this is going to have. The gerrymandering is a thing I wish we could definitely get rid of, because that would make, I think people, all this stuff isn't ideological, right? The premise of democracy isn't completely ideological about freedom or whatever. It's also just about accountability and, being good at your job, being good at governing. If someone sucks at their job, the trains aren't running on time, the schools are collapsing, you can vote them out, right? That's not ideological. That's just trying to keep your government from sliding into corruption and kleptocracy and incompetence. Speaking of which, another story I want to talk about today before we move into the comments is an example of this. Texas Monthly had a story called "The Texas Electric Grid Failure Was a Warm-Up." And basically the point is that after the electric grid failed and some like 700 people fucking died last year because of the snowstorm, they haven't done anything to fix it, because they're more loyal to the electric company than power companies than they are their constituents. And that is what a one-party state looks like. That's not ideology. That's just fucking
practical.
corruption. Yes.
Yeah. Matt, you can put those back. I think it was Brooke McClymond or something. I'm sorry, it was up there, and now it's not. Said from YouTube said there's no way Joe Biden is running again. I think we've talked about that on here before, and I was thinking about it earlier today too, just looking at his approval rating and all that stuff. What do you think's going to happen with that?
I don't know, man, but there's a bunch of stories saying Hillary's thinking about running again. So God help us.
Dude, we need some different fucking people up there in there.
Mm-hmm. Anybody
younger people. Yeah, man. Fucking
anyone who could run a single lap around a track or do a pull up.
But what is the likelihood, in your opinion, of? Because I remember people saying that when Joe Biden ran the first time. I remember there were people saying it's like, he's probably only going to do one term or whatever. But I feel like that don't generally just happen. Like, is the idea that he gonna get primaried, or he's gonna just say, you know what, fuck this, or like, what is supposed to happen with that?
Well, a lot of things I don't like about, Joe Biden's not a perfect guy, a perfect politician. I don't doubt his patriotism on some level, and I think looking around, the only thing holding together this coalition that barely won the election in 2020 together is his heart beating, right? There's no other politician like he won the primary easily for fairly straightforward reasons. Nobody liked anybody else. Kamala Harris is polling about the same. She has my approval rating, and only a dozen people know who I am. And Mayor Pete, because he has an Amazon Prime documentary. Like, who the fuck is out there? I mean, I wish Jay Inslee would run. I think he's like a good politician and a good governor. But yeah.
Wanda Manning says, you need to specify that because Sinema wants to run. I made a video about that the other day. I find that laughable personally, because like you said up top, okay, you go to Trump rallies and they're like, yeah, we think she's great, but they're not going to fucking vote for her though. I don't think, because of everything else about her, and she's alienated this side of the fence completely. So it's like, but she thinks she's like, she speaks to the middle or something. But most people that genuinely fall in the middle don't give a fuck about politics or are not active in it to begin with. There's those mythical swing voters, which have always been wild to me. But generally speaking, you're not going to win the presidency courting these, the mythical middle, I guess. Sinema in particular they don't give a fuck about her. They're watching fucking Love Island. They're not watching the latest. They're not watching C-SPAN.
Yeah. I mean, that's why there'd never be a third party. Is like, what are you could, so you win 5% of people who think it doesn't. Yeah, it's not enough.
Right.
It's not enough.
The Jack of all travels says from YouTube the Lieutenant Governor of Pennsylvania, Fetterman, would be a great president, and he's not very attractive, which means no one would be surprised when he wasn't friendly to a bunch of idiots. I don't know. You know that guy? You know who they're talking about?
Yeah, he's like 6'5". He dresses like an auto mechanic, even though he has 2 master's degrees. He's got like a wife that dresses like a Playboy bunny. He rules. He's a cool guy. I think he drives a Harley.
That all sounds cool to me. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got like he's a good politician. He comes across well on camera and stuff, and he's got an imposing presence. I don't know much about him other than watching him talk shit to Republicans during the recounts, and that was fun.
Linda Jo Kinzinger says Stacey Abrams or Katie Porter. Yeah, they're both great. Was there news about Abrams running for something?
She's running for governor of Georgia
again, like officially.
Yeah. So
yeah, talk about that voter suppressive stuff, man. Like that Brian Kemp shit. I mean, remember people being aware that it happened and it was shady or whatever. But like looking back into that, to his like tenure as the Secretary of State of Georgia when he presided over all the voting shit in the state, in the run up to and during the election where he beat Stacey Abrams, it's wild how clearly corrupt and sorry and fucked up it all was, and he just straight up got away with it. He's the governor. He's been the governor ever since.
That's essentially the crux of his fallout with Trump. Is like there are ways to cheat at elections. You did it the fucking wrong way.
Right?
You cheated an election on the front end. That's what the election suppression laws are about. Right. You rig an election before it happens. You don't go after it happens and try to undo shit. That's fucking stupid. Yeah. So he deleted like 300,000 people off the rolls that were I think he thought were Democratic voters, and he won by like a few thousand or whatever.
He also shut down a lot of places, and the thing about the misspellings and typos and stuff in applications, he pulled out every trick in the voter suppression book and won, but still barely won despite all that. And just the fact that he like announced his intentions to run for governor and also his intentions to keep the job that presides over the gubernatorial election process, like that just shouldn't be allowed to happen in the first place, but it was all pretty fucked up.
It's basically like, it's like buying yourself a world's #1 dad t-shirt and then acting like it's the real title. It's like, I got it for like you just made yourself governor.
Yeah.
You don't get to fucking do that.
Kashishimoto Howard says Fetterman's an awesome guy. We love him in Pennsylvania. Yeah, I'm liking what I'm hearing. Amy Upchurch Toodle says local elections are so important. Yes, that's also true. We were talking on a recent episode about how they have gotten more motivated and ambitious at a smaller level, at a local level, like the assault on school boards and stuff, and how that's really upsetting and worrying because you can be much more effective at that level. You got, a handful of lunatics screaming loudly enough in that small enough of a venue, and like shit can happen. It can matter, as opposed to just us hollering on the internet. They do that too, but yeah. Oh, the Jack of all travels back again says Fetterman wears Carhartt every day. That's right. Hell yeah, go Carhartt. You see that, Mark? They're pissed off at Carhartt.
Oh yeah. Oh,
not Fetterman isn't.
No,
yeah, because they said it didn't matter what the Supreme Court ruled. They were going to force their employees to get vaccinated. So now, of course, people on the right are calling for a boycott of Carhartt and all this stuff, which is pretty juicy.
What are you going to do? Not wear work pants?
Right. Yeah.
It's like Carhartt's got a monopoly on actual useful work.
That's what they're not going to. They ain't going to stop wearing Carhartt over this. Be like, I'm sure there was at least a few gay people who were just like, that chicken's just too good. You know what I mean? I can't help it. But
I don't understand why. I guess it's because nothing else matters, but everyone expressing their politics through consumerism is wild to me.
Yes. Yeah. Normally, all right, Nicole Johnson says, Trey for president. Yeah, sure. Why not? Don't forget to like and share, everybody. That's right. Like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. We do appreciate it. Thank you, Nicole, for being the person who has to remind me every week. But I do appreciate it. Did you see the never mind. Forgot what I was going to say. Oh, I was going to say about Carhartt. I feel like a lot of times when they call for boycotts of stuff, I feel like in my memory, it's been like, I remember they did it for Target, and they did it for like Air Force Ones or Nikes or whatever over Kaepernick and stuff like that, and it's all, and usually when that happens, I'm like, I think they'll be fine without. Like, I don't think they're sweating it too much. Y'all boycotting them, but Carhartt, it is a bit of a different story. Except I think Carhartt just knows. Yeah, y'all ain't gonna do that. Like, you say you're gonna do that, but you ain't gonna. You're gonna buy these coveralls, motherfucker. Don't lie.
It is funny. Usually they express their like disdain for a brand by doing a reverse boycott, by buying more of the stuff and burning
it or whatever. Yeah, but they purchase it first. Yes,
like protesting. Hilarious. I mean, we talked about a couple weeks ago, but protesting the Dr. Seuss estate for taking those 3 books out of circulation by buying up all the remaining copies of that book is fucking priceless. A book you never wanted to read anyway because no one had ever heard of those 3 books. Or they buying all the Aunt Jemima bottles, the Land of Lakes box with the Indian on the side. It's like, okay, you don't like. They bought Nikes to burn. They bought Kaepernick jerseys to burn.
I think that like I'm not saying it's literally the first time. What producer Matt says they ain't wearing Dickies, which is funny. But I don't know if it's literally the very first time it happened, but I know that like that happened with the Beatles. People were buying up a bunch of Beatles records and burning them and stuff because of what John Lennon said about Jesus or whatever. Mm-hmm. And they asked him like what he thought about that, and he was basically like, "Well, I mean, as long as they're buying them first, I don't really give a shit." And and nobody, people have just kept doing it still to this day because got to send a message, Mark. Got to send a message to Nike and the Beatles.
They did it with Seuss. They did it with the Harry Potter books. Remember, they bought Harry Potter books and ran them over with like steamrollers and set them on fire and shit because they black magic, whatever. But like. It is funny that right-wing protest ended up working because it made J.K. Rowling a billionaire, and now she spends all day tweeting anti-trans stuff. So there you go.
Yeah, wild how things work out sometimes.
Yeah.
All right.
Go ahead, sir.
Bob Sullivan says, boycott Chick-fil-A by vomiting up the sandwich after you waited in line. Yeah, right. Yes, that would be a similar scenario.
Trey, you go Popeyes or Chick-fil-A?
I've actually never really liked Chick-fil-A. Even that was a very convenient boycott situation for me because obviously I'm a big time ally and I always have been. Got the lovely gay Uncle Tim since way back. I care about things like that. But I didn't really have to try very hard for that one because I've never really been a big fan, which I know is like blasphemous in some circles. But when all that stuff came to light, and it's like, no, they kind of suck. Actually, I was like, well, sweet.
Yeah.
Now I don't have to defend the fact that I don't really like it in the first place. And I don't know why I just never did. I never really liked their shit. I love Popeyes though. It's like, don't get twisted. I love chicken. Just Chick-fil-A never really was my thing.
John Orbit Bainbridge says Popeyes is way better. I got to tell you, like, I'd never really tried Popeyes until like they had launched their chicken sandwich and people were going crazy over it. And I was like, I got to try this shit. And then I tried it and I was like, I can see why people are stabbing each other over these sandwiches.
No, Popeyes is fucking great, man.
Yeah.
I love it.
It is better than Chick-fil-A, I think, because they use the brioche bun. Anyway, that's my hot food. That's my fast food take.
I like it.
Yeah.
Let's see here. There's a lot of people saying Popeyes is real good, and I think we all agree. Oh, let's see. What else do we got? Not reading that one. Sorry, I just saw one of our trolls pop up over here. It said, "Hey, you R-word hillbilly," in all capital letters, and then just a bunch of other ranting and raving after that. And
was the rest of it true too, or just that?
Yeah.
Music club, Skews Club music club recommendation before we go. So Vanilla Ice is apparently gone Q adjacent. He's now making hit songs with the QAnon rapper, MAGA rapper Forgiato Blow, who has
Forgiato Blow.
Yeah, he's the guy we talked about before, dancing next to Roger Stone at a CPAC.
Because we incorrectly called him Jelly Roll or thought that might be Jelly Roll, which prompted my sister to immediately text me saying, "You take that back about Jelly Roll right now. Jelly Roll ain't like that, and you shouldn't be talking shit about Jelly Roll because he ain't like that." And I had to put out a retraction and apologize for besmirching the good name of Jelly Roll. It was in fact this guy instead. Oh, here it is.
Oh, here's some music. Here we go. Maybe.
And Bronco Billy ain't got nothing on this. Saddle up, baby, give me a kiss.
You know it's Friday, and I just got paid. Baby, won't you come roll with me? I'ma take you to the rodeo.
All right, that's enough.
That's more than enough.
Anyway, if you're
Wow.
interested in more Forgiato Blow songs, he has a couple called White History Month and Captain Kyle, which I'm assuming is about Rittenhouse. So there you go.
I've wondered with Vanilla Ice if it's like, is he going Q or is it just like this is who he can rap on a song with now? Do you know what I mean? Just like he'll just if you want him to rap, he'll do it. He'll show up, even if you're Forgiato Blow, perhaps. Or maybe he's full blown Q lunatic. I don't know. Anyway, who's to say? Thank you all for joining us. Remember, go to wellreadcomedy.com if you want to come and see me. You can go to weeklyskews.com if you want a shirt, all that good stuff. Like, subscribe, 5-star review, tell your mom and them, all that. We love you, and we'll see you next week. See you, bye.